Self-esteem and self-worth are two different things. Take the blue pill, take the red pill, take this, do that. But where is the person who's just got their hand on your heart? Wow, what would that feel like? My dad said, do you know what stops people cold every single time? No, he said it was disappointment. I'll tell you why.
Hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, your podcast for recovery-focused healing from addictions and traumas. I've got a question for you. Have you ever screamed into the void waiting to hear something back, but not even an echo responded? Well, our guest tonight has done exactly that, and she's here to tell us how she got an answer out of it. Deborah Weed was at the top of her game in high-profile branding for companies like Citibank and Kia when she was struck down by a mysterious, agonizing illness. For 3 years, she was bedridden, told it was all in her head, and essentially abandoned by her circle. But in that darkness, she found a spark. She is now the founder of the Self-Worth Initiative and the creative force behind Paisley the Musical and the Quills Up movement. She's here to talk about how she turned medical gaslighting and total rejection into a movement about reclaiming your power. So, Deborah, first, I just want to kind of jump into it. Like, medical gaslighting, that's a huge thing. So many people are gaslit by their doctors, and it's scary. So I'm just glad you made it through. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really sweet of you. I appreciate it.
Of course, it's not easy to self-advocate, and it's one of those things where you go to a doctor because they know all the answers, right? So whatever they say, it must be the truth. And if they're just kind of telling you, hey, it's all in your head, then it's all in my head. What do I do about that?
That is so true. And I think, you know what? I think with COVID and everything else that's happening, all these mystery things that are out there, a lot of people are experiencing that right now. And if you really start to lack trust in yourself and you go to a doctor and they're telling you different things and you're not sure what to do, it can really leave you to a point where you lose your voice, you lose your self-worth, you lose your identity. Because you know what I think, especially for creative people or those people who really want to show up in the world, one of the most excruciating things is to feel unseen.
Yeah, 100%. For sure.
So when you feel unseen, it's something that you have to kind of go deep, because if you didn't start out with self-worth to begin with, let's say as a kid, you were being told, hey, you know, you're not good at this or you're not good at that. And then all of a sudden you're standing in front of a doctor saying, please help me save my life. Please help me get clarity here. But anyways, for me, it was kind of a torture situation because I was misdiagnosed for 3 years. And I went from doctor to doctor that told me everything from I have MS to I have Lou Gehrig's to it's all in my head. And they all missed the mark, every single one of them.
Wow. So was that one test per year? It was like, okay, well, we gave that round of treatment a try. Let's try something else.
No, it was actually a desperation move. And I guess that happens to so many of us when we're looking for answers.
Yeah.
I went to one doctor and literally he said he was the MS specialist. Heaven forbid you go to a specialist, because the specialist will tell you that it's there under their specialty. So the first doctor, it wasn't like year to year to year. It was me just trying to get answers or figure out why I was so weak, why I was in horrific, unbelievable pain, like giving birth every day, why I went from being at the top of my game in corporate to not being able to function. What was going on?
Yeah.
And it was like a move to find out what it was. And like I said, for me, I had to find my way or find out who I was while I was at my lowest. And I guess here's the first thing I want to share that's really, really important for people to understand. Self-esteem and self-worth are two different things.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
So what makes the difference there?
So self-esteem is like when I was the director of development for Citibank, 19 branches, I was doing something awesome. That's self-esteem. I'm doing something and I'm feeling esteem because of that. But every time I tackled something and I got into the business world and I got to the top of that area, that's self-esteem. But
Okay.
when you're in bed and you don't have things that you can show, I mean, obviously, what am I going to say? Look, I napped 8 hours. Do you think that's going to give me some self-esteem there? No, it's not. So I learned firsthand that self-worth is what we tell ourselves. It's something totally different. And most people do not have self-worth. They're kind of trying to overperform to feel good about themselves, rather than if we all really knew our worth right from the get-go, the whole world would change. We would change.
Yeah, that's totally true. Real quick, I gotta say, I think that you're just spot on with that about the world changing and stuff, because finding ourselves is really, 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 really hard, especially in today's society where we're living up to societal expectations, whether it be your neighbor, whether it be your teacher from middle school or high school, what have you, or whether it be your grandparents even. We're trying to meet expectations, and we essentially build up an identity that isn't really us. And sometimes we have to chip away at that statue, or sometimes we have to put pieces back on the statue, however you want to look at it that way. But you said that you found yourself at the lowest. So it reminds me of something like the Phoenix. You know, you started out at the ashes, like whatever was you just gone, but here you are. So is that kind of what it felt like? Like you thought you knew who you were, and then during those 3 years, it just kind of burnt up, and then you just kind of sprang out of the earth like a new sprout or something?
Yeah, kind of like a new sprout for sure. But I think, let's talk about that. Let's look at that a little bit even deeper.
Okay.
So many of us, and me included, we learned from kids we want to be seen. Don't you think that everybody wants to be seen? Can you imagine a world where there's communities and like everybody like literally loves each other just because you're a community and you're a tribe and you're getting, but that's not how we're coming up right now. Not at all. So you see a celebrity and they're like getting, a million hits, they're influencers, they've got a lot of things. What is it about them? Is it really the money, or is it the fact that they're being seen? So when we want to be seen, sometimes we try to overperform, right? To fit in, and yet we're not really being ourselves. We're not doing what we want to do, because let's say that you are a perpetual artist. You're really creative and you come up with this song and it's like absolutely amazing, and somebody says, "Hey, it's not good enough." Well, you might, if you feel like you're not going to be seen there and you're not going to perform there, then you take your talent, you kind of put it under a bushel and you go do construction or whatever it might be, like whatever it might be, just to get by. And literally you're living a lie. So for me, I was in corporate, which was great. It was, like I said, self-esteem, man, I had it down. However, when you're in corporate, your heart, it's not a heart job. It's a brain job. Like literally, it's like that, where, you're just trying to think things through. That's how you get rewarded. And I was born with a gigantic heart. Totally heart first. So here I was, and I was good at what I did, but I was misaligned. And that happens to so many of us too, is like sometimes the worst things, it's even scary to say it because I'm still going through some of the worst things in certain ways. It's like enough. But the thing is that sometimes that's where we find our true essence of who we really are. And it was there that I decided, look, if I ever get out of this mess, if they ever figure out what it is, then I'm going to start the Self-Worth Initiative. And I'm going to get out there and do everything I can through books and theatrical things to have people have an experience of what it feels like to have self-worth.
Ooh, okay. Oh, I love that. Because I actually was watching and taking notes on a little YouTube video that was 6 ways to treat trauma, and it was Bessel Vanderkolk, and the guy that wrote "The Body Keeps the Score."
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
and he was talking about how theater is great because we get to sit there and we get to find different roles with ourselves and how our bodies feel embodying that different role. Because like I never thought about it, like whenever you're a kid and you're scared, you're down, you're shrunk, you're trying to hide, you're trying to disappear, and then if you're suddenly in a role where you're the person protecting that person, then it's like the role just flips all of a sudden. And I was like, whoa, I kind of want to try that, but it's going to make me feel a little silly just acting out in the apartment, just doing weird things, you know?
Well, that is so brilliant. I mean, it might seem like just a little thing, but it's a huge thing because I just read the other day about how psychodrama, I've never done it, but how psychodrama really helps people because when you're doing psychodrama and what happens in psychodrama is you're literally acting out an aspect of your life that you experienced to other people so that they can feel it and see it and really like take on what you're experiencing. And you have other people playing your mother, your father, whatever. You give them the role and it becomes alive so that it's not just words, right? Like, how do you, like, literally, if I tried to tell you the trauma that I've been through, is any word going to will you get it? Will you even touch it?
I mean, it really depends. Like, it only depends if someone's been close enough to that same trauma. But even then, it's like the pain is still individual. Your pain is your pain. It's valid no matter what it is.
Right. So when you're doing the theater, when you're doing that theatrical kind of thing, or when you're telling a story, I personally, I think, yes, we can really learn by listening to people who are talking and going through that. But why is it when we go to a movie or we hear a song, it's sort of like it almost like imbues something into our entire DNA or psyche that's a little bit different because we feel rather than to intellectualize instead of let's, maybe that's the issue. Maybe too many people are trying to intellectualize trauma, and it's sort of like, hey, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take this, do that, and it's sort of like, but where is the person who's just got their hand on your heart? Wow, what would that feel like? Maybe there should be a hospital where it's just like, hand on heart, and it's like, and just like stay with a person and let them process and feel. And where is that in our society? I don't know. Psychologists, not even to a certain extent, because it's like, tell me about your pain, not let's feel it together. Well, sometimes, but
The whole way we treat mental health and the emotional health and everything like that is just absolutely piss poor pitiful in this country and a lot of the world, honestly. But that's the thing, is that it's one of those things that the emotions are on the inside, right? So we don't see it. We just kind of assume everyone else is doing good. We kind of assume everyone else has their shit together, and we're just kind of like, oh, what? After a certain point, you realize everyone's winging the things that we shouldn't be winging. And it's kind of like, I thought you knew what was going on. They're like, no, you had the map. And it was like, no, Jerry had the map. And Jerry's like, no, I had the trail mix.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. I mean, look at the influencers that have millions of followers or in committing suicide. What's that about? What's it? Talk about being seen. And maybe that's the other fallacy, like the real feeling. There was a time. Ooh, this is so cool if you can catch this. There was a time that my husband and I had sold everything we had. We got 4 suitcases and traveled around the country. And when we did, nobody knew us. So nobody asked, what do you do? Not one person said, what do you do? And we'd be sitting there and we'd be like looking at the stars, or we just like be. And do you know how seen, unseen felt in that environment? But then as soon as I get back into the, rat race, whatever you want to call it, it's a whole different dynamic, because then I'm judged by, what I do, how much I've done, am I performing? And then the need to be seen is like so different. It's like, it's such a dichotomy between when you just go out into the blue yonder and you're just like in awe and you're just being, compared to getting back into this world where you're judged and have to fit in. It's a big wow.
Yeah, it's a huge wow. I'm right there with you. And the closest kind of thing that I can say to have that happen recently, that weird, just culture shock is the best way I can put it, was whenever I went to the Ren Fair a couple years ago. I went to the Renaissance Festival, was camping down there, and just I had no idea who anyone was, but it was so much fun because I'm sitting there and just I had a blast. Everyone is treating each other fairly well, I think, for the most part. And of course, you always have your bad apples, but the general vibe was like, hey, we're here to step back in time. Let's have fun. Just be ourselves. Let's show up. Let's be the us that can't be here in normal society. And then whenever I got back, the first thing that I noticed was the smell of the city. That was terrible. But then having to sit there and just wonder, I can't wear this in public. That's weird. Oh, I can't do this. Huh. And it was just so strange, because kind of like what you were saying with the actors or influencers that commit suicide and stuff, it's like they're getting seen, right? And then I think that they fall underneath that judgment themselves of that expectation trap, because now they have these followers, they have an audience that they have to adhere to almost. And in a sense, they quite literally lose themselves in the process. And I think that it's whenever they abandon themselves entirely, whenever the camera's off, I think that's what really gets to them.
Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine what that would feel like? Because it's like, it's so exciting, but then if you have to keep it up, Now that you have the followers, you have to keep the followers. I mean, it's just this whole thing. What are you willing to do?
Yeah. Well, and see, that's kind of the thing too, right? How many of us are doing that subconsciously because we grew up having to please our parents? How many of us had to do that to please the people we were around in school? We grow up abandoning ourselves this whole time, that kind of like what you said, after a point, something catches fire and it's just like, who am I?
Yeah. And okay, so you've done tons of podcasts and things like that. What are some of your deep questions when it comes to trauma? Let's go for it. What do you think is a good one?
What do you mean by question about trauma? Like, what causes it? How do we fix it?
Yeah, kind of my dad, right? My dad was like a brilliant guy. I'll give you for example. And he was always pulling me out of the darkest stuff, but in the most creative, dynamic ways. And one of them was, I'll give you two of them, and then maybe that will open up like a deeper conversation. But one of them was when I was on the sidelines, right? I was so depressed because I had helped so many people. Get, and they're flying. They're doing amazing. And I'm happy for them because they're my friends, but I'm like on the sidelines. I'm down for the count. And I felt like, I'm talking about self-worth, nothing, nobody. So I'm like, Dad, what do I do with this? And he said, okay, kiddo, go get a bowl of water and some food dye. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm telling you that I'm despondent. You're telling me to go get you some water and food dye. But I know my dad. So off I go and I get the water and I get the food dye. And he said, all right, now what I want you to do is I want you to take 2 blue drops, and put them in the water. So I put them in the water and he goes, okay, stir it up. All right, I'm stirring it up. And he's like, okay, go get those 2 drops of blue drops. I'm like, wait, no, I just mixed it. The water's all blue. It's impossible. I cannot get those drops. And he said, exactly. You have given each person who's out in the world 2 drops of your encouragement, your love, whatever it is. And there's absolutely no way that you can remove your imprint on them and what they're doing. And there's no way that they can remove what they've given you. And you know what was crazy is here I am, like, just holding on for dear life. And all of a sudden, with that little example, I felt like I was part of everything. And I calmed down.
Huh. Ooh, I love that. That's an awesome story because it really does kind of highlight that whole creativity aspect whenever it comes to dealing with trauma. And I know we spoke a tiny bit about it in the pre-call about how creativity is stifled by trauma. And I spoke with someone recently that was talking about how trauma is separation of self. And I think, yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I was like, because whenever trauma happened, what happened is that I've noticed that all these years that I've dealt with addiction and I've been on my healing and recovery journey, whatever you want to call it. And I had the epiphany that it was a lot of it was caused because I was grieving the me that could never grow up.
Oh, wait. So that's what I was looking for. What do you mean? Tell me. What is that?
So the me that could never grow up was a 3-year-old that, kind of like what you said about yourself, was heart first. I'm very much a sensitive guy, if you want to call it that. I will cry at Disney movies. I will do this and that. I've cried on the podcast several times. Actually, like the last 4 episodes, I think I've cried. And it's just one of those things where, like, growing up, that wasn't really allowed, like if I showed emotion, I had to have a damn good reason for it. And I couldn't complain because I might be wrong. And I tried to self-advocate. I was shot down and told that I was essentially wrong. And because of other factors and everything, it just made me think that I shouldn't be here, And so I was almost having to put on an act for this whole time to be the person that I thought everyone wanted me to be. And so I never got to have that little 3-year-old actually grow up to what he wanted to be, But that's the thing too, is that I don't know if I knew what I wanted at that time, because all I wanted was for everyone to be happy, and that's still what I want. I want everyone to be happy. That's why this podcast started, because I want people to know that addiction is not the end of the road. I
Yeah.
want them to know that recovery is possible. I want them to know that a bad mental health day is still a mental health crisis sometimes, because that can literally be the breaking point for someone. And mental health is so just shat on, essentially, that we don't let people be themselves, And I think that that's what is so wrong, is that we're trying to essentially tell people you're born, why? Like, give us a reason why you're here. And it's like, sometimes I don't know. I just want to exist. Fuck.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and so that's why, like, my whole life, it feels not like a lie per se, because I lived it, I experienced it, I have the memories, I have the trauma, I have the scars. But I mean, in a sense, it's like, well, what's the proof? Where have I been? What did I produce to make it worth it? And so part of it's like the podcast, and another part of it is like, but why does that matter? And that
Self-esteem, not self-worth, self-esteem.
Yeah. So I'm just like, it's that worth is hard to find.
Okay, I got an answer for you.
Okay.
Thank you. That was like really, I got it. I want to stay with it for a second. I got it. So you're absolutely right. If we're trying to attain from, let's say, the when they say ego, maybe after your description, maybe it's something different. Maybe it isn't so much ego. It's kind of like it's trying to fit into a clothes that you don't even know what will look good, but you just don't know where they are yet.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. When you have creative expression, that's the one thing that comes from above. Like, think about it. think about it. It's sort of like I sometimes I'll be sitting here and a full song will just like boom, like the lyrics just in one sit, like 10 minutes. I'm like, where did that come from? It did not come from me. It was not in me. All of a sudden, it just like poof and then out. So maybe it's more about, and like what you said in the beginning, maybe it's more about when we can channel expression. That is when we are really out of ourselves. That's when we are receptors for something bigger, and we're just expressing this a massive amount of creativity and love. The only problem is that we start judging it by, well, what if I don't have enough listeners, and what if I don't have enough people, and what if I don't have, then we kind of judge that blessing. I mean, can you imagine? Whatever anybody believes, whether anybody believes in God or doesn't believe in God, whatever you want to believe, is up there. But can you imagine just going, well, yeah, that song that you just downloaded in me, or that, podcast that you were able to inspire me, whatever it was, that sucked. But but I guess we get so afraid of what the human judgment rather than the free expression. And if we can get to that, that's where I think the true healing for everybody will take place. I don't care, like, even the person who feels like they can't go on another day, like they just can't do it. What they might be saying is I don't want to be judged by, like, if I were translating their languaging, maybe they'd really be saying, I don't want to be judged by humans anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's a really painful place to be. So maybe a better thing is to say, what expression wants to flow through me? Because that might be the life source to keep somebody going another day. And it might be just giving somebody a dollar bill at underneath the highway or what. Yeah, we don't get, who knows what the higher expression is. Maybe that's the highest expression of all.
Maybe. I mean, that's kind of a good question, right? Because we don't know the ultimate goal or endpoint of anything. I mean, if we hardly know what's happening in the moment, how can we know what's going to happen? Who knows how long in the future?
Yeah.
But it's honestly really funny that you were talking about the, like, essentially downloads and stuff like that, because, and you're like, well, what if the podcast sucked or whatever? And I was just like, oh, so whenever the idea for this podcast, it was not my own. I have admitted that before. It is not my own idea. What happened was I was in rehab and I'm just sitting there minding my own business, kind of reflecting, kind of having that white noise in my head, just trying to exist, I guess. And it was like, you're going to start a podcast for mental health about addiction and recovery. And I was like, huh? I was like, Dad, I don't even like podcasts. I was like, I didn't even listen to podcasts.
I love it. And that's why you have to start one.
So yeah, after the rehab, gave it a little bit of time and just was kind of planning it out, talking to friends about it, trying to hype myself up. And then it started. And then of course, kind of like what you were saying, I was measuring my worth by the metrics. I was measuring my worth by the listeners, by the downloads, and I was falling really short. But again, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, if I watched the previous episodes, like I just sent someone episode 4 for inspiration. I was like, if this was where I started and where I'm at now, you just keep going, But
I gotta share. There's so many stories and so many things that I love to share, but this is one for right now. I was waiting for some coffee, and there's this barista, right? There's this barista, this guy. He's got tats all over him. He's got, the big earrings, the big you got them too.
Bigger.
Round. Yeah.
His are bigger.
So, and he's taking the coffee and he's slamming it down on the thing. I mean, it was a line. I mean, like he was really having a bad day. And you
Damn.
could tell that people were like, whoa. And in the beginning, I'm like, what anybody would do is like, that's bad service. That's not cool.
He's
But
trying to wake him up.
but by the time I got to him, I'm like, all right, let's do this little experiment here that I love to do. And it was like, hey, you look really upset. What's going on? And he stopped what he was doing. He absolutely stopped. He looked me right in the eye. He had been looking down. He looks up at me, kind of checking me out. Like, am I trustworthy?
Yeah.
Can he say anything? And then for whatever reason, he just blurted out, my mom's got cancer. She's in the hospital. I don't know if she's going to make it. And I'm like, okay. So I get my coffee, and because I've had health challenges of my own, I went and got a card and I wrote out like a whole card for his mom, gave it to him. Come back about a week later, and when I'm there, this guy, he looked like an angel. I mean, by the time I got up to him, like he saw me, by the time I got up to him, he was like, hey man, I gave my mom your card. It really meant a lot to her. And thank you. It really meant a lot.
Mhm.
And I learned something so important that day. That's the audience. It's not in numbers. It really isn't. It's one person who can see that you care about them. I mean, obviously, the reason you got this inspiration wasn't because, hey, I'm gonna be a millionaire overnight. No, it was because something was flowing through you where you literally understood the next person. You're like, hey, I've stood there, I've been there, I've done this. If I can have somebody know that I'm here for them, that I'm just like speaking on their behalf. And yeah, I don't have the credentials I have is that I've been where that guy or gal has been. I mean, how huge is that? So, that's the power of creative expression when used, because it's not about the number. It's like life. It's a life force for us, no matter how many people you reach, right?
Wow. Oh, so creative expression is a life force, essentially, right? Ooh, I love that.
I think it's true.
Yeah, I think you're right, because have you heard the African proverb that movement is life?
I haven't, but I feel that that's so true. I mean, like when you think about emotions, everybody talks about it now. It's sort of like emotions move, but if you get stuck in the sadness, you think that will never move, but it will. Everything, it's chemicals.
Yeah, it's chemicals, it's energy, frequency, whatever you want to call it, right? I think that there's always something moving through us.
Yeah.
And I think whenever we stifle that, I think maybe that could be the ultimate sin, per se, is cutting ourselves off from our creative expression. Because if creativity comes from above and we're saying, nah, I don't want that, that's essentially denouncing right there, it sounds like. Or if you want to get technical, I guess.
No, it is. I mean, it's not. I think that it's
hard to say.
it's such a very, very hard dilemma when you're in a huge. Okay, here's another dad story. I think you'll like this one.
Okay.
And it's probably the most important story I could ever share, and that is, my dad said, "Do you know what stops people cold every single time? It's quasi emotion." So I'll let you guess. What do you think it is?
Quasi emotion? What stops
Yeah.
people every time?
Yeah.
Like stops them in their track?
Yeah.
Shame?
Shame is a good one. And most people say fear, even though fear is a strong one. No, he said it was disappointment. I'll tell you why.
Ooh.
He said that, let's say that you've got something you really want to do, or I will really want to do. I'm really, really excited about it, right? All the endorphins, everything in our body, all the chemicals, all the feel-good chemicals are just like, they're going on, right?
Yeah.
But when we hit a wall, all of a sudden, all the endorphins, the adrenaline, all the feel good chemicals go out of your body, and it feels horrible. It
Mhm.
feels so bad. And you don't realize I'm a chemical factory. My chemicals just got messed up. You're not like a computer like that. So all you're thinking is that sucks. But you dust yourself off and you say, okay, I'm gonna try again. So you try again and you want to get to where you're gonna go. And then all of a sudden, once again you've got those feel good chemicals because you think maybe somebody said that something was good that you did or whatever, and then all of a sudden you hit that wall again,
Mhm.
and all those feel good chemicals dissipate. And you
Mhm.
know what? He told me, he said, look, after that happens numerous times, that's when people give up and they never want to try again. And they're not conscious that the reason that they don't want to try again is not even, failure. It's the fact that the dissipation of the feel good chemicals felt so bad to go from that high to the low that it's like, I'm not doing that. So they flatline and never try again. Like,
Mm.
okay, that sounds pretty terrible. I've done that. I'm sure everybody has. What do you do? And he's
Mhm.
like, well, that's where the fake it till you make it comes in. Is that if you realize that we're chemical factories, and if you realize that disappointment can hurt that bad, you just put one foot in front of another. And that's where, if you can stay with the creative expression, if you can let that override the chemical letdown, then you won't fall into that desperation of like, I can't take that next step.
Mm. Okay. Oh, I love that. I love that because duh, yeah, you're right. Like shame tells me and my body I need to hide, I need to go away, I need to disappear because I'm not good enough, and so on and so forth. And yeah, disappointment would essentially be whittling away at whatever self-worth I was trying to accumulate anyways. And that was probably the exact same thing that kept me in my addiction a whole lot of the time because
Yeah.
yeah, so if one of the things was like I didn't want to get help because I didn't want to seem weak, I didn't want to seem like I was quote unquote an alcoholic or whatever, and so I didn't want to disappoint my family, didn't want to disappoint the ex-wife. Yeah, so whole wow, yeah, this okay, yeah, disappointment. That's a strong one.
Yeah, and I think like if it's something that I don't think people know. It's so
Mhm,
unconscious, but if you're aware of it, you can possibly tweak it and kind of go, all right, how do I override this? How do
mhm.
I get back to that place in me that I mean, I wish there were classes in elementary school of how to love ourselves,
Yeah.
to
Oh.
really know what
uh,
self-worth truly is rather than find out the hard way.
Yeah, because learning self love is so hard. Like I
So
and
hard.
well, let me correct that. Maybe applying self love after a certain amount of time, right? Because I kind of spoke about this before with someone. Was that it's not so much that like self care and all that stuff is hard. It's really hard whenever you've never learned it and you're about 30 years into your life and you're like, I can do this for myself. Holy shit. And it's just like it's wild. So I wish we learned that kind of stuff whenever we're growing up. And I mean, there's little children's books that kind of tell people like, hey, stay motivated, hey, it's okay to be different and stuff like that. But whenever you're 3, 4, 5, maybe still getting those kinds of books, the message doesn't really stick because we have everything else coming left and right all of a sudden. And once you're in elementary, you're in the biggest culture shock of your life because you're going from whatever house life you were going to a weird structured settlement and surrounded by strangers trying to shove knowledge in your head, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? But so why don't we try to figure out what is one of the things that someone can do if they're coming up with disappointment and they're trying to override it?
Well, I think first they have to realize that it is a chemical reaction and they have to do it anyways. But maybe, maybe a bigger thing is that the metrics have to change. What would it be like? What would it be like if everything flipped and you were the guy who wrote that card for the guy, the barista, and I put more weight on that than the number of influencers you had? What if I put more weight on the fact that you were like nice to somebody in a shop, when you were getting your groceries, and the fact that you just say, hey, have a good day? What if I put more weight on that as far as the matrix of who you are self-worth wise, rather than the expectation of how to fit in or be seen in the world? I mean, everything would flip.
Whoa. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because, well, so what if someone tries to do that? One of the first things that I can see someone coming up with is going like, well, if I'm trying to help someone, I'm still producing, right? So how, like, what if I don't know what to produce? That means I'm still worthless, right?
Well, no, not if it's, and it's not even trying to help somebody else. It's trying to be your best self. It's trying to be your radiance. Another thing my husband and I did, it was an experiment. We wrote cards to every single person who did something nice. Every single person, like, thank you. We had like little thank you cards, and like, we wouldn't write it and then give it to them. Not like that. They do something and then we'd leave it on the table or whatever. So we didn't always see the reaction. So even though it was supposedly for them, it wasn't. It was my best expression. That's what made me feel self-worth. It wasn't, like would it land? I don't even know half the time. Although one guy saw us and he chased us down and he was like, "You don't understand. It really made my day," like what was going on. And it really meant a lot to him to be seen, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, I guess, with disappointment or anything else, maybe we're swinging for the fences, right? But maybe it's the wrong fence. Maybe the right fence is just where we feel, when we put our head on our pillow at the end of the night, we feel good about the little things that we did, the real things, the things of connection. Not because it's necessarily like people who go to a homeless shelter and, do the food. They might be thinking, oh, wow, I feel really good. I'm going to be able to do that for that person. But no, it's not that. It's for yourself, because you're like, wow, this feels good. Instead of seeing a problem, I'm solving a problem.
Okay, yeah. So that sounds almost, whenever you put it that way, it reminds me pretty much exactly of step 12 in Alcoholics Anonymous. Are you aware of step 12?
No, tell me what it is.
So, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And essentially, whenever it's broken down for the newcomers, it's you got to give what you got to keep it. Essentially, it's a paradox of sorts. If you don't give away your happiness, you don't get anything back in return.
You know what? That's exactly, so it's straight up. And maybe, now that I think about it, you're right, because you always have somebody there connected with you. And it's like, who's winning in that kind of situation? Is one or the other, or is it both? Like, it's the connection. Have somebody that cares about you. Gosh, we all need 12. I need 12 steps. So, to have somebody kind of like a big brother, big sister over your shoulder that cares whether you're okay or not. For the carer and the caree.
And you were also, you hit something real quick that you were like, maybe you need the 12 steps. And whenever I was going in recovery, first into recovery and rehab, and I learned the 12 steps, I was like, I think everyone needs to do this, because it's not like, hey, do this and solve all your addictions kind of thing. A lot of people treat it as such. But whenever you break it down, it's actually a self-help guide for personal growth. It's wild, because what you were talking about, like at the end of the day, like, did I do good kind of thing, reminded me immediately of step 10, which is the first maintenance step, which says, let me like keep a catalog of the stuff that I messed up on and let me correct it next time. But I think that that's the more negative connotation of it. So what I put a twist on is I do both that, sit there and take note of like, where did I disappoint myself? And then the other aspect is, where did I improve today that normally I
I
would have
love that.
messed up? Because it's a little pat on the back. It's like, hey, instead of all these years of going, you should have done better, you little shit, it's, oh, hey, you actually fucking did good. I'm proud of you. And it feels so much better. Holy shit.
Love that. I love that. I think we all need that. Absolutely, positively.
Yeah.
Need that encouragement. That makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, but that's true whenever we can apply it to ourselves, right? So how
Yeah.
did you start to learn to kind of do that for you though? Because after being gaslit by doctors and stuff, it wouldn't that be hard to kind of talk yourself up like that?
Well, I there was a time where I think that we all well, I shouldn't say we all, maybe we don't, but there was a point where I felt very bitter and very
Mm.
abandoned and very hurt.
Mhm.
It wasn't like, from here to, oh, let me be real positive now. It it wasn't like that at all. Because, when they found out what was wrong, something was seriously wrong that, should have killed me and taken me out. But the
Mm.
thing is that I think sometimes I think we're dropped into situations because we are the people that can help the next person once we get to the other side of it. I do think that, like you said you had a big heart when you were a kid. I've always had like, a really big heart. And I guess this was this was the saddest, happiest thing I've ever heard. I went to a friend and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening in my life. I don't get it. Why is God doing this? Because, I could be making such a difference. I could do so much more. Why do I keep on getting put on the sidelines? Because this physical thing has happened 2 or 3 times. And she said to me, Deborah, you always said you wanted to be an angel, right? Yeah. She goes, well, angels have to know how people feel.
Ugh. Yeah.
Like, maybe I picked the wrong job. Forget it. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I think that there is a truth to that. Like, let's say that, okay, with sponsors,
Uh-huh.
that a sponsor really goes through a hard time, but maybe they're the best sponsor ever because they walk through so much. They understand the trauma journey and they're able to look at you and you believe them. I mean, that's genius. That's genius because what you're doing is you're taking somebody's trauma and almost alchemizing it, or, really doing
Yep.
alchemy for real,
Yeah.
turning all that pain into hope. What's
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just wild, honestly. And your story reminds me of the quote that I was trying to pull up, like word for word, but I saw it like 3 months ago or so, and I was just sitting there doom scrolling, and then pretty picture, read the quote, and I was like, oh fuck, because it was like, what if everything happened to you because you'd wished for something to be as a younger child or something. And I was like, oh, I wanted to help a lot of people and everything. Like whenever I was 9 or 10 years old, my mom sent me a picture a couple years ago of like a little letter that I did in elementary. I think I was in third or fourth grade, and it was like, I want to be a dentist so I can be rich and buy homeless people houses. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of kid does that? But I like, maybe that's why we go through bad things, is because we wish to do good for other people. And like you said, you can't really trust someone that hasn't been through the fire. Like if someone walks through the fire and they are saying like, hey, I made it through, and they look like pristine and everything, like they've got an asbestos coat on and stuff, I ain't trusting them. Asbestos is gonna give them cancer, stay away from me, you know. But if someone comes through and they got like a little bit of hair left and like smoke coming off of them, I'm gonna be like, all right, they made it through, but fuck. Like, okay, let's go that way.
Yeah. I know. And we won't figure it out, I guess, until then. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, why not make it the best expression that we can be, and find, bottom line, look for not the self-esteem, not the things we do, but the self-worth that we claim. We say how much we're worth, and realize that every single one of us is this container of expression, just waiting to share.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it in the rooms before, and the reason why sharing our stories can be so powerful is because we never know whose wounds our words are going to fill.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, that's strong. But it's also like hearing some people's stories, I'm like, I'm really glad I didn't have to go through that. And then hearing some people's stories, I'm like, okay, like, come on, we can do this. Real quick, I did just see the time. Where can people find you? Because you've got 3 websites, right?
Yeah. Oh, two of them.
Okay.
So the main one right now is Paisley's Fashion Forest. I'm putting together a musical that I hope will help so many people, especially in the creativity realm. It's in magical realism, think Wicked or The Lion King, and I'm putting that together now. So that's Paisley's fashionforest.com, and the other one is the selfworthinitiative.net.
Oh, okay. Selfworthinitiative.net. That's awesome. And then the other one was paisleyfashionforest.com. So
yes,
people
Paisley's with an S. And if you're a creative, if you're a singer or a dancer, or in that creative realm, and you're like, maybe I still want to do something, yeah, definitely hit me up, look at it, because I'm looking for those people out there that are dynamic and creative and just waiting to come forward.
That's awesome. Thank you for that invitation that you extended. Um, and it just reminded me of something. Have you heard of the term somatic expression?
Yeah, I can imagine what it is. I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of like somatic dance or something.
Yes.
But just somatic expression is kind of like you're feeling like you just got that adrenaline shock because the bus missed you by like 5 inches and you almost crossed the street. It's like they're doing the whole little like,
Yeah.
shaking it off, or just expressing how you feel in the moment, no matter how silly it looks.
Right. Yes.
And someone told me, they were like, I think you need to do some more of that because you're just a big bundle of energy. And it's like, yeah, I think that's right. I have to move. I have to express myself. I can't sit still. Sitting still was literally trying to kill me. And maybe not it was trying to kill me, but I was killing myself by not expressing myself, by repressing myself, by saying I'm not worth it. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to feel like that because I know how bad it sucks. So I thank you for just coming on here to have this discussion about self-esteem and self-worth. And I gotta ask, do you think that we can see you on in the future? Because I think we could talk to another like 3-4 hours on this thing on one episode,
Absolutely, I would love to. I love your energy. I love what you're doing, and I'm really cheering you on.
Oh, I appreciate it very much, and I love your energy. I love the stuff that you're doing, the message that you got, and I mean, real quick, where in you're in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Okay, so people can like come see this play on stage, right?
Not yet. It's in development. I'm working on all the music. These kind of things can take a long time to take from, like if I'm aiming for Broadway. I'm aiming for like, the big city stuff. So, we're in the development stage with the music and the script and putting everything together. But what I am doing is I'm going to be putting out the music, 5 songs, like a sampler, if you will, get people excited about it. And I've got this program called Quills Up, which essentially means don't give away your power. Do not give it. Quills up, man. Quills up.
Quills up. I love that. Reminds me of a porcupine. Or
exactly.
oh no. Or It's kind of cool too because you get to express yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Some people get like a little confused, but once you learn about the musical, we didn't get to talk about that this time, but that's cool because today it was all about self-worth, self-esteem, and stories that would inspire.
Yeah, and I think anyone that can tell their story, they should feel inspired by themselves because it's their story,
Yeah, yeah,
And I just, it's so cool being able to talk to expressive people because it's kind of like you're not afraid to be authentic. You're just ready to show your emotions. You're ready to be you. And after dealing with either the person in the mirror or, everyone on the street, and it's like, hey, how are you? And they're like, fine. And you're like, fuck, never mind. It's just nice to be able to get a ray of sunshine, in the world that's essentially overcast all the time. So I
yeah.
really got to thank you for that.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Of
Thank you.
course. All right. So, Deborah, the name of this podcast is Retrieving Sanity, and we explore how all facets of living life impact mental health. Looking at the incredible motley adventures of your life, what does retrieving sanity personally mean to you today? And what's one practice or perspective you believe is crucial for anyone on that journey?
Oh, that's such a deep question. I'm going to go the opposite way and say, what really is sanity? Okay. You started it. You asked this question, so now I have to answer it. There was a movie long time ago called King of Hearts. Did you ever see it?
I don't think so.
Man, you got to see it. You have to see this movie. Okay, so what happens is there's a war going on, and there's this mental institution. And the mental institution, all the people, have their stuff. And because the war is coming in, they open the doors. And when all the town people leave, and so all the people from the mental institution become the barbers and the cooks and the this and the that. And they're in this town and they're having they're free, they're having a ball. And here comes the army, these people that are going to fight. And the whole thing, the whole idea, the premise with the movie was who's crazy and who's not. Because here's these people that have encompassed this whole town, and they are potentially much more sane than the two army fractions that are coming into the town to kill each other.
Huh.
So I'm going to flip it and say, really first we have to define sanity, and I would define that as being aligned with who you are. So what might look sane might be very insane, and what might look insane from my thing might, so I think for me it's like when I'm aligned, when I'm myself, that's sanity.
Okay.
Go see that movie. It's a real old one, but boy, was it good. Oh, man, was it good. Real old, bro. Real old.
Sounds really good. And it reminds me, well, not the movie, but the way you said that reminds me of Morticia Adams saying chaos is but perspective, And it's kind of the same thing. It's a spider may be like, hey, I got food. I'm not going to go hangry now. And the spider, the fly is like, fuck.
right, exactly. It is perspective. That's so true. So,
well, I guess next time we look in a crystal ball, just make sure that the person that is reading our fortune doesn't have cataracts. Got it. So, with that being said, everyone out there, I just got to thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. This has been Keegan, and this has been Deborah, and we will see y'all in the future. But don't forget, you got to love yourself. Try to love others if you can, but you got to love yourself first. If you got a mental health crisis, you can dial 988. Or if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can call the Trevor Project up in Canada. And we will see y'all next week. With that being said, much love. Shalom.